Hey there, Haunted Heart listener. We know you came here for some Netflix and Kill realness, and we're going to give that to you. But first, we have a really quick announcement before this week's episode that we're super excited to share with you.
Yes.
Starting this week, Netflix and Kill will be presented in partnership with the Dark Universe Horror Database. Now, this won't change anything for the way that you access the show. You can still find us on all of your regular podcast feeds, as well as our website, thehauntedheart.com. But in addition to all those places, our show will now be featured on the Dark Universe Horror Database website under the podcast tab.
Yes, we're really excited for this because the Dark Universe Horror Database has amazing content on their website where you can find things about upcoming trailers, Blu-rays and DVDs, all sorts of articles on all of your favorite horror films.
So we're very excited to welcome the folks at Dark Universe Horror Database into our haunted hearts, and we hope that you'll check them out online at du-hd.com to find new ways to stay spooky. Is that a machete in your pocket, sir, or are you just happy to see me?
I'm just saying, why wouldn't you check the back seat?
I'm just not here for it.
I kind of enjoyed the axe to the face.
Ooh, hey there, Mr. Monster.
So, chill or kill? Time again, folks. You have curled on up on that couch. You've watched your Netflix, and you are wondering what's next on the list for us to talk about.
Is that about them or is that about us?
That's them.
We curled up and watched our Netflix, and I'm wondering what's going to happen next to us.
Oh, well, nobody knows what happens next, unfortunately.
Why did you say that like you do know? Why did you stare into the distance like you know exactly what's going to happen to us?
Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Maybe I was visited in a dream last night. I actually had a horrible dream last night.
Did you really?
Yes, I did. Had a dream last night where I went to work.
Well, that's tough.
Well, no, it didn't stop there. Had a dream that I went to work and came back out and my car was totaled. And don't know why. It was totaled.
Man, fuck that dream. That ain't even cool. That's just like stress.
Right. Like it was in the middle of the street and in the middle of the parking lot, like it had been moved. There was a boot on the car. And I'm like, apparently I had been parked illegally. Someone put a boot on the car and then accidentally drug my car into the middle of the street where it proceeded to then be hit by multiple cars until it was just fucking annihilated.
That's insane.
And then I went out and I just pulled like a fucking...
You have some
drama
stressful
queen
ass like fucking real life
It
dreams.
was horrible because I remember like even in my dream I was on my phone with the insurance company.
Oh my God.
I pulled out my phone and I was like calling the insurance people. I was fucking crying. I felt that terror of like not having a car. And then I woke up.
You got some fucking terrible ass working class nightmares.
My
nightmares are like there's a being with no fucking face who's chewing on like a corpse in front of me.
Your big toe, perhaps?
Yeah, if only.
A little reference to another episode of ours.
If only.
So yeah, but I don't know. Maybe it was just spawned by my reactions to what we're about to discuss today. I feel some type of way. I did not expect to feel this type of way, but I do believe, because I have such strong feelings about it, that Katie is going to give us our plot synopsis. But I will tell you that we sat down and watched Circle, the 2015 film Circle, not the Circle Netflix series, which is amazing.
Which we also did watch.
But we watched both.
But
so I know
Kenny
it can be
says
confusing.
that we can't do a Netflix and Kill on the Circle social media show.
As much as we want to.
As much as we want to. Slightly off-brand.
Maybe.
Yes. So the Circle. Not the Circle, just Circle.
Circle.
I'm going to have a problem with that. You guys know
Just-
me and putting the in front of words and names. that don't need it.
Like the sex.
The Walmart. So Circle is a 2015 film, and it's very interesting in that, it's just a different type of setup, right? Instead of the usual setup where we have characters who have names, who we get to know, who we learn about their backstory, and we get to have this like nice, rich, robust context for them. Circle actively works against that, tradition. So Circle opens with a room filled with strangers who are each standing on a red circle emblem in the floor. So the film opens, and I think it's like 30 seconds, or it might be a minute. Every 2 minutes. It's every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So every 2 minutes, there is this dome thing in the center that sends out a shock to one of the participants, and it shocks them, kills them, they fall to the ground, and then they're like pulled by this magnet, almost like it acts like a magnet, out of our field of vision into the darkness that surrounds them. So this room is totally like everything around them is black. The floor is black, and the circles that they're standing on are red. And then there's these red triangles that light up as, each person is chosen seemingly at random. So there's probably, what would you say, like 50 people that we start with?
It's never...
There's not a set number of people that we start with, but we start with a bunch of people, and they're all different kinds of people, right? They're all different races, ethnicities, sexes. They have various like indicators with their costuming of socioeconomic status, and it's sort of just like a random hodgepodge of people. Some of them know each other, some of them don't, and our characters, which is this random group of people, are kind of like a collective protagonist that is tasked with figuring out why are they here, what's going on, how were they chosen, how do they stop it if possible, how do they control it, what happened, basically.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the setup for the film. Now, they figure out very quickly that they can vote for who's going to be shocked next. And that's where it becomes this sort of social commentary on this random group of people and how they choose who's going to die. And it sort of just progresses from there.
Yeah, you really start to see the deterioration from that point of like, of social norms, I should say, right? Is this where you want me to jump in?
Well, I'm wondering if we should put up a spoiler alert now.
Yeah, we should definitely put up a spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen the film and you want to go check it out, if you don't want any spoilers, now is the time. We are warning you right now. Here we go. All right, now that those bastards are out the way, and it's just us.
Sayonara. Now that we've voted them off the island,
now that we've voted
out of
them
the circle.
Out of the circle. Yeah, so I want to say it was so this isn't we've seen this setup before, right? This is very much like Saw or like other movies that we've watched where you put people in a room and they either select who dies or some other force comes in to kill them. But essentially the main point of what differentiates this film, like you said, was the fact that, some of them know each other or whatever is irrelevant.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's something that a lot of films who do this format tend to lean on, right? Like they're brought together with a reasoning, like let's figure out why we're together.
Right.
There's some sort of
we're
motive.
All former addicts, or we all have committed, horrible sins, or we all have a dirty secret.
Yes.
All of that is irrelevant in this. And you start to sort of like when that element is introduced of like people know each other, you start thinking, because we've been trained by things like Saw, okay, maybe this going somewhere.
What's the connection?
Maybe these people are all, somehow connected in some way. But relatively quickly, that gets ruled out.
Yeah.
And it it doesn't really have a bearing on the plot. There is no reason maybe that they were all brought together.
Yeah, so they think that, and then I think they start to get into, like maybe it's something to do with the fact that like who's good, who's bad. Like it becomes more of a moral dilemma from that point, right?
Yep.
And I think throughout the whole time, your brain is trying to figure out naturally what the reasoning is for them to be here. Like I didn't necessarily automatically think that it was going to be that there was no reason for them to be here. Like in the back of my mind, I'm like, there has to be a reason.
There has to be a reason.
Right? There has to be a reason.
But the whole point of the film actually is that there's not a reason.
Yeah. And so from the moment that they start figuring this out, like you really just start to see just how shitty people can fucking be.
Yes.
And how we make judgments based on people. There was several times throughout this film where you would have there was ageism, right? Because initially they were willing, the entire group was willing to vote off the older people just so that they could have time to figure out what's going on. And even then, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you're still only gaining like 2, 4, maybe 6 minutes of time. Like what could you possibly figure out in 6 minutes, right? It didn't seem to me that just didn't seem sustainable. And we quickly learned that because of the fact that it's like, okay, now that you've gotten rid of all of your 60 to 70 year olds that were in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
how
now you got
comfortable are you with killing 50-year-olds?
What about
and
50s?
40-year-olds and 30-year-olds
and they start
20-year-olds?
To have that discussion, which is being led by this one fucking jackass, like 20 something. Even if he is 20, he might have been like 19, 18.
Yeah.
Who knows at that point, right? And then you start to realize like, oh, people's like, well, I'm 52, and then they're like, okay, well, you'll be next. And then everyone's like, whoa, hold up. 52 is not old. And I'm like, what the fuck did you expect?
Right.
What was going to happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's presented as a logic of, these are, because these people are older, they would be the next people to die anyway. And so we're just going to take them out first and we'll just do it in order of that, like thinking of like the natural course of things. But of course, every day 20-somethings die before 80-somethings, and it doesn't really, life doesn't necessarily follow that predictable pattern. And so once we were out of the people who looked old, then it became an issue for the group. And then there was infighting and what have you. And I think the structure of this film provided, I think the point was to provide an examination of how do people, one, how would you advocate for yourself? How would you weigh and measure your life and convince people that you are worth keeping alive as opposed to somebody else? What have you done? What are the things that are important to us that, signify that somebody is worth keeping alive?
Right.
And what are the qualities in somebody that would cause us to think that they're not worthy of being alive and vote for them? So there's a lot of that. We get into discussing, there are people in the group who don't think very highly of LGBTQ people. There are people in the group who, it was very interesting. There was one couple, that was a really cool moment, that one couple who, they were across from each other in the circle. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't call them a couple. There was some sort of they knew each other.
There was a
And they
connection.
kind of, they acknowledged that early on. And that's when you thought that we were going to go down that path of, there's some significance to this, but actually there wasn't. But they did know each other. And they had a really interesting moment where one of them was chosen and they decided to go together, because if you step out of your circle, you can't leave your circle or you are automatically shocked and killed.
Yeah, so that's some of the rules. Like you can't step out of the circle. If you do, you're automatically dead. Yeah. If there is a tie, a big beam of light shines down on both, and then the group revotes.
Right.
So you can sort of see that there are rules that they learn along the way through a lot of trial and error.
Rip.
Yeah. So And also you learn that you also can't vote on someone who has already passed.
Yeah.
Right? So there are certain rules, like I said, that they learn very, very quickly on.
So essentially, it's an impossible equation.
You have to choose.
You have to choose.
And I think that it really...
Well, that's not true. You have to... Every 2 minutes, a person is killed. And you can't leave your circle, and there's no way to escape the problem. But there's not... if you don't choose, someone is shot and killed randomly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an important point that I'll circle back to later.
Yeah. And so they go through the... What?
I'm sorry. I'm just pleased with my pun that I didn't intend to make. I'll circle back to
I'll
that
circle
later.
back. And zap your ass with some
Stick
knowledge.
it back on that A.
Yeah, so they go through the people of old age. They start looking at people who there was
Are
one
bad,
character
quote unquote.
who are bad, right? Who look bad. Like if there was one guy who was tatted up and and there are people who look. There was one lady who had been through chemo, right? So it's like, these are all factors that these people are starting to try to filter to decide who lives and who dies. But in the end, ultimately, it doesn't fucking matter because it's going to come down to two people, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to come down to two people. So there are a couple of moral dilemmas in here. One being because we have a small child and we have a pregnant woman, right? So the group themselves start to divide sort of in a faction as they are sort of picked off one by one between the group that decides that they want to try to protect these two people because they feel like at the end of the day, these are the two people that deserve to be there last. Why? Pregnant woman, small child. And then you have other people who feel that, that shouldn't be the case, that everyone should be on equal playing ground. So that sort of central conflict begins to develop, and you have this sort of battle going on between these two factions of people who want to save the two quote unquote most vulnerable people. And then the ones who want to give everyone an equal opportunity. Mm-hmm. Because on one side, you could look at it and say, okay, these other people are being assholes. But in reality, because I fought with this myself a lot. Because, obviously no one wants to be responsible for the death of a pregnant woman and a small child, right? But if you think about it, one way is giving the chance and an equal playing field for everyone. While the other is essentially, they're becoming martyrs to protect this small child.
Right.
So, you can sort of see where the struggle lies. And obviously they sort of pit it so that the people who are probably just were assholes in regular life, in everyday life, were the ones on the side that wanted to give everyone an equal playing field. And then on the other side, you have, this younger man who advocates and comes up with this plan to protect, these people. There's the older lady who had cancer, and I believe there was an army. There was a military man who was there, and a few other
and a
other
cop,
people.
and this lesbian woman who had worked for the Peace Corps, and
Yeah. So it really just starts to boil down to that. And then that's really where I just lost my fucking shit. Katie had watched this previously. And then I watched it.
I was around as Kenny was watching it.
She was
and
around.
He would periodically yell at the screen. He would pause the movie and yell at me about the movie. So this was one that I brought into, that I had proposed that we watch and discuss.
Yeah.
And, he had a lot of feelings about that as he watched.
I did because I went through several things. I went through the typical, like, what are they all doing here, right? And then once I kind of got that was out the door and we got into this, discussion of, this little girl and then this pregnant woman, I'm like,
where do you stand on
where
that?
do I stand, right? And I tried to put myself in that situation to think, like, what would I do, right? If I was in that situation. And honestly, like, I just think that you don't know. Here's my thing. You don't know what is happening after this, right? They have just made the assumption that there is going to be one person standing.
Right.
Or two people. They're like, it will come down to two people. And in the end, they're all thinking, it was really weird because it comes much later that, oh, if there's two people, then one of them has to go.
Right.
And the whole time I'm like, no fucking, like, duh.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to come down to the two people. And you can't select yourself.
Right.
You cannot vote for
That's one of the
yourself.
rules.
So at the end of the day, you're going to have to, if it comes down to two people.
They're going to each vote for each other, and then you're going to have a tie, and then what happens? Who decides?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
So you would end up, like, something is going to happen, right?
Right.
Or if you end up with two, and who's to say that the final, deciding factor wouldn't be, this mysterious black orb, and they'll just shoot one of you
Randomly.
at random, and it would be random. So that was my struggle. I'm like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really fucking matter. It doesn't matter if you are trying to protect this, young girl and this pregnant woman, because if it's down to them two, someone's like, either the pregnant woman's going to sacrifice herself to save a little girl or not,
Right.
Right. Or the little girl sacrifices herself to...
Well, you're not really sure what happens.
Yeah, you're not going to know.
It's an
and you don't
uncertainty.
know, even if... And, like, who... There was nothing that said, at the end of this, there's one person and you get to go home.
Right.
Nothing said that.
No.
So for me, I think, if I was in that situation, bitch, just count me out.
Yeah, you would just nope out of your circle.
I would just nope out
I'm
the
done.
fucking circle, because I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit here and make this shitty choice.
And there were
like,
characters that did that, by
Yeah.
the way. There were characters throughout the film that did nope out of their circles for varying reasons. And one of which was a teenager. I mean, this film really went there.
Yeah.
Like Degrassi Girl.
And
It goes there. And I kind of respected it for that, because I didn't get a sense that there were any pulled punches here. One thing that I just wanted to mention as I was watching, so I had kind of a different experience. This is definitely a movie where you're going to be engaged. Like, this is not something you should watch when you don't really have a whole lot of energy, or where you're just trying to put something on and just fucking chill. Like, this is not B horror. Like, I'm trying to just chill out.
I wish you would have told me that before I was watching it while I was working from fucking home.
Well, so this is definitely something that is going to engage your mind. Hopefully, that's the goal of the film, at least.
Yeah.
And
or at the very least, just keep you on your seat to know who is next, or who it comes down to.
Well, you're gonna be arguing. You're gonna be, regardless of what, because there's a lot of different things that are said in this. There's a lot of things that are triggering that is said throughout the course of the film, because you have this group of people who have these, like, varying beliefs and ideas and experiences, and there's gonna be something said that you disagree with. And it's gonna hit you, right? And it's gonna piss you off, and that's kind of the point. So one thing that I did want to mention is that, as I was watching, obviously things were pissing me off, and I'd be yelling at the TV. I was yelling at the TV too when I watched it, but I found it interesting that, so we tested nobody can leave your circle, we tested you can't vote for yourself. We tested that you can't make a tie and, like, get out of killing somebody via a tie. But we tested not voting, and the mysterious black orb in the center, just chose somebody at random. And then we never went back to not voting again.
Yeah.
Once they figured out that they could vote to control who was killed every time they voted. And that was really significant to me, because in life, the world is full of people of varying ages and varying experiences and various belief systems and various good deeds and bad deeds. And we all sort of are randomly picked off. For some of us, it's old age. For some of us, it's cancer. For some of us, it's car accidents. It could be right now coronavirus. And we don't have any control over the order in which we die or who dies and who lives. So why, when we are in this circle and we're given control over that, why must we assume that control? Why not just let it be random?
Yeah,
truly?
I think that just goes against humanity's like need for survival, right? Yeah. And I think that it was interesting because it
is an interesting question because that is a legitimate choice.
To just not vote and then whoever's left would be random.
Right.
Yeah.
And it goes like it goes.
I completely agree. I think that I just don't know that humans are naturally hardwired to be that way.
We're not. It definitely goes against human nature. We all like control, regardless of what our beliefs are, regardless of what age we are, regardless of, we prefer being in control.
Yeah.
And we are uncomfortable with, even because honestly, if you look at it, the circle is, it's terrible because you're looking at people as they die and you see them die and then you're left there, standing waiting to die yourself. But that's kind of what life is. People die randomly. We don't have a shit, we have no fucking control over it. And so it was kind of like boiling that down into this one room and then giving people the option of, well, if you could control it, could you do it better?
Yeah, and the thing is that you don't really know. You don't know who votes for who because only the individual can see their arrow lit up and who they choose, right? So you never know who is choosing what. Right. So that also provides like an interesting element because when they first tested out the theory of like not voting, you never really know if someone accidentally voted.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Or on purpose they voted.
Or on purpose because you have, again, that goes... with human nature, you don't want to be, the person who, if they were trying this, there's still something that would flip in the back of your mind that's like, what if this is wrong? And like, let me do something to save myself, right?
Right.
Because nobody knew if not voting, the thing like killed them all, right?
Right.
Like it just would zap everybody. Nobody really knew that. So you're kind of initially led to believe that if you don't vote or if nobody votes, it's selected at random. But by the end of the film, you question that because, it could have been that someone voted and that's why that happened. Right. And had they just continued to play that, or if someone even advocated for not voting. Right. Because you never really had an advocate for someone who didn't want to vote. Right? Yeah. Like there was never an outspoken voice. You had advocates for the people who wanted, to even the playing field. You had advocates for the people who wanted to spare the child, but you never had someone who was advocating for not voting. Mm-hmm. And I think it is hinted that there was a couple of characters who just did not vote throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously you don't know the answer to that or if it's true or not, but I think there was only
one character. It's just that one man. You don't know for sure, but they did say that there's one man who makes it like really, really, really far to almost the end of the film, and all of a sudden there's like 4 people or 5 people standing there, and there's this one man who hasn't fucking spoken at all. Yeah. And they try to talk to him and he won't speak. And somebody said, he's just been standing there. His hands have been at his, because you vote with your hands. And they're like, his hands have been at his sides the whole time. He hasn't voted one single time. And he, I think that the point of that character was to provide somebody who was just embracing the situation with stoicism, basically, and not voting. So he gets killed because the others, once they recognize them, once they notice him, they kill him. But I thought that his character was very interesting, and I thought that it was interesting how long his character lasted, considering that he never spoke. So he kind of got lost in the fray. Well, do we want to talk about the ending now?
Yeah, but I just want to say that sometimes when you're caught up in a situation, and even though this is definitely fictional, but like sometimes that is the best strategy.
Sometimes you just got to not be running that mouth.
Like some people were doing, right?
Running that mouth is what makes people not like you.
Sometimes being quiet and observing will get you far. So just throwing that out there. I did respect that character a
podcast
lot.
telling you not to run your mouth. Imagine that.
Sometimes shutting up is the best thing for you to do. We wouldn't know that. So yes. So as we're getting towards the end of this film, it sort of culminates in this battle of votes between the lives of these two, characters, this small girl, this pregnant woman. And you have this one younger guy who is advocating for them, and then the other side has their people. And eventually they, go back and forth between numbers and who supports what side versus the other. But eventually you end up with 3 remaining characters. You're left with the young man who has been the main advocate for this whole time, and you're left
the pregnant woman and the child.
Yeah, and then you're left with the pregnant woman and the young child. The young man has made it. He has vocalized that when it would come down to it, that he would remove himself to leave the other 2 people there. So when it comes down to it, the little girl finally steps up and she says that, or he makes a comment that's like, unless do you want to sacrifice yourself to save the baby?
His plan is, he says to the girl, this is an unborn child. You and I will be brave. We'll do it together. We'll both step out of our circle together, meaning that they would both die, and then the pregnant woman would be the last one standing.
Yeah.
So he counts down, and the little girl steps out of her circle and is killed, and he doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't step out and then immediately votes for the pregnant woman just before the timer is up. So that means that both the pregnant woman and the little girl died. So the girl stepped out of the circle. He voted for the pregnant woman. That eliminated those 2. He was the last one standing. But nothing happens because there essentially was another player.
A tie is
given. Given.
The bright light comes down, surrounds him, and of course he is tied with the pregnant woman's unborn child, who is still alive, apparently.
Yes.
And he votes for the unborn child.
Yeah, he does.
Unflinchingly, because he's a bastard.
Yeah, a fucking motherfucker that I just... Oh, God, I hated his character so bad. And so you see this moment, and then next thing you know, you cut to the outside. He has been delivered from this space or wherever they were at, from this circle, back to Earth. You see that there isn't just one spaceship that's holding these games, I guess you could say. There are multiple everywhere. And so he sort of makes his way. He finds a group of people. They're all looking up at the sky, at these spacecrafts, where other people are playing the same game. And obviously he is joining another group of survivors, and it's just sort of left at that. Right. But it's interesting to note that when he is joining this group of survivors, it does seem to be, there seems to be a theme. There are younger children. There are pregnant women that are that are part of that survivor group that's looking up at, these spacecrafts. Mm-hmm. So it gives you the idea that while it may have been random that they're all selected together, that potentially there was still a type that was playing through each game. Like there were similar people in each game, that maybe a child, a pregnant woman, all of these people were selected, not because they were related to each other in some way, but because of what they symbolized for humanity
to the society.
the society,
Yeah.
and that the game that this being or whatever these beings or whatever that they are, because you never really know, that's not explained.
I mean, they're it's insinuated that it's aliens,
that they're aliens, but you never but
they don't get into that.
They don't get into that. They don't get into a motive or anything.
Mm-mm. It's just sort of presented. It's very presentational. It's not representational. Yeah. They don't get into what things mean. They just kind of put it out there for you. Which, to be fair, so I still haven't really come to terms with the ending, the very end, that epilogue where we see him delivered back to Earth and he's looking up with all the other survivors at the spacecraft. Because early on in the film, it is sort of like one of the people in the circle tosses aliens out there. You wake up in a weird, strange red and black room and you didn't sign any papers or pay any money to be there, then it's probably aliens, right?
I mean, just saying.
The guy who threw out aliens, I was like, yes. But it kind of like, he was like, what if this is like just some sick, twisted thing and we've all been abducted by aliens and like they're playing this game to like study us or learn about us or whatever. And then it turns out at the very end of the film to be like exactly that. And I was just kind of a little bit bothered. I was just a little, it was just too on the nose. I wish that they had removed that dialogue, that had not, I wish that somebody in the circle hadn't exactly laid out what the fucking, like what it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It was just a little hokey because then, the film is sort of built to build towards this moment when you have one person left. And then exactly what was said was going to happen happens. And you're like, okay.
You were given exactly what was.
Right. You were given exactly what it was. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like, that part to me felt a little bit like a letdown because I was like, I wish if you were going to have it be that you hadn't laid that out so explicitly previously. In the dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And because at that point, it's so clearly, like you said, is on the nose because it's like, okay, so this was obviously some sort of alien invasion whose intent was to like study the human behavior and how humans would react in this situation. Right.
It was just very, I think we could have gotten there if we hadn't exactly laid that out in the beginning.
Just that one line. Like if we had just omitted that.
Just nix that.
I agree. I think it could have been more effective. But for me, I would have rather the ending. I was so dissatisfied with this ending. Completely. 1,000%. I hated the ending of this film. I hated the ending of it because to me, they could have taken it to another level that I think would have worked really well besides just laying it out at the end, right? This is one of those few films because now don't get me wrong, I love an ending that is wrapped in a bow and good and explains and I'm good to go, right? I need that in my life. I need that. Just, this is what happens. We're good. But I think this is truly a film that would have benefited from leaving the ending open, right?
So like, you don't know who won.
Either you don't know who won, or if he made his choice to sacrifice the baby to save himself. What if the lights just went out, right? Like he's seen thinking that he's the last one, but if the lights went out or something that could have just obscured that ending a little bit so that you weren't given the answer, so that maybe it was just because I fucking hated this character and I hated the fact that he survived. But I needed a twist there at the end. And I think they tried to provide that with the baby element. Which I caught earlier on. I was like, the baby
technically it's alive,
is, technically alive, right? So is this baby playing?
Yeah.
And if so, it's probably not voting, right? Like, I don't imagine the baby's in there like, motherfucker, I'm going to protect my mama. Fuck you.
It would be incredible,
some
though.
People,
thanks, baby. Thank you, fetus.
But some people, when I was reading about this film, suggested that because the mother fell over and one of the red circles detected life, if that's the reason why the baby lit up. Like if the mother and the baby was in their own circle, that circle just detected that one life force, right?
Yeah.
Because the baby didn't have a vote. There wasn't an arrow for the child the whole time, right? So there was no way to select the child.
Right.
The child was not considered
a separate life form at that point
form.
because the mother was still alive. But
Yeah.
of course, and this is true. If a pregnant woman is killed, the fetus can actually live
Yeah.
for a short while.
Yeah.
So that all checks out, obviously. Instead of detecting her life form, it's detecting, like, the circle is now detecting the fetus's life form.
Yeah.
I think their purpose was to show you... I think their purpose with this character, who we both hated, we're supposed to hate him, right?
Yeah.
But it's supposed to show that there is an element that we can take our drive for survival to such a point that we're willing to make decisions like that we're willing to be driven by our survival instinct. You know, there are people who can strip away all of the social feelings that we have towards, and it goes all the way back to, you know, prehistoric times. It goes all the way back to our earliest, you know, there's evidence from the earliest settlements that humanity ever had that we would take care of the weak. We would take care of the developmentally challenged. We would take care of we would take care of children. We would take care of elderly people. We would bring them food. We would do extra work for them. They weren't, you know, left out in the cold to die.
Yeah.
We took care of them. And that has been because humans are social creatures and you know, that's how we've survived. That's why we are at the top of the food chain, because we have those social bonds and we get by together. So I think that in that character, the movie was trying to show you that there are, and it's true, you know, we talk about them a lot on this show. There are people to whom those things don't mean anything. You know, I'm going to kill this pregnant lady because I need to survive. And when given the option to kill an infant or a fetus that hasn't even been born into the world yet, I'm going to kill that too. Like, and I think, you know, he was supposed, and I don't think he was the only, like, I don't think he was the only, like, non-pregnant, non-child, just single male. I think there's at least one other single male in that group of survivors who are looking up at the sky. I would have to rewatch it to see.
Yeah,
I think there's at least one other male, and I think that I guess that's a statement on, you know, that we don't necessarily always do what's right.
Yeah. And
there are elements among us who will manipulate and lie and, you know, go against what we would see as our humanity. And that's part of humanity too.
Yeah, I mean, it is. But yeah, I just didn't want, like I said,
fuck him.
Yeah, fuck him,
for
dude.
sure, fuck him.
Like, he just, I mean, I will have to say that at least the other people were vocal. You know, he manipulated them. I think, you know, that's the point. He manipulated them, like, to the point to where that adds, like, an added layer of just, you know, douchebaggery, because at least the other people, while they were fucking assholes themselves, like, they were, you know, vocal about it the whole time. Now, at the end of the day, it did get them killed. So, I mean, there's that, but I just... The ending of the film, just as a whole, I felt could have benefited with a little more obscurity. I think that I think that the ending did a disservice to the film as a whole. For me.
Yeah, I don't know that I would go so far as to call it a disservice for me, but it was very I could see where an open ending might have benefited the film, because then it would have left you with the question of it. But I don't know that it would have really changed anything for me, because then we see, you know, that group of survivors where it's a bunch of different, you know, they're showing you that there can be a bunch of different outcomes. So I don't know, but it's definitely a fucking downer to have a fetus.
Well, my thing is
be
that,
murdered.
is that if it was down to a tie, like if it came down to a tie, like I don't like. What if it came down to a tie, and then like so it was down to the orb, right? To select who. I don't know.
There was a lot. There was a lot.
Like I think it didn't. I was just expecting a different ending. I think that there was at one point where I was expecting the girl to actually be like
a sleeper agent.
A sleeper agent for
cool.
the aliens, right? A la Saw at the end. Like I was kind of going with that to like as like the true test of humanity, right? Like I wanted her to like rise up from the fucking at the end. Like after he made his final choice. Yeah. And then I wanted her to just fucking zap the fuck out of him and then have her walk. Like something. I needed something other than him getting what the fuck he wanted. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally, that's completely valid. And I feel that way too on one level. And then on another level, I'm like, well, but I think I always ask myself, so there's two different questions that when we watch Netflix and Kill, I kind of think about. There's one question of, did I like it? Did I have a good time? Would I watch it again?
Yeah.
Was it a fun ride? Like, you know, did I like it personally? And then there's another question of, did this film do what it was trying to do? Mm-hmm. What was the message? Did it get the message across? What were they trying to do with this? Why did they make this? And for me, with Circle, I think they told the story they wanted to tell. And I think we felt everything they wanted us to feel. We felt repulsed by this guy who, you know, manipulated everybody and wasn't straightforward and wasn't honest. But then at the end of the day, like, nobody said you had to be honest coming into the Circle.
Yeah.
It's certainly, you know, you got a married couple who faked being a married couple because they wanted to survive, right? They played for sympathy. Yeah. They did the same thing he did. He just took it one step further. He committed more. And I think we're left with that shitty feeling of like, damn, we are shit. But at the very end, you know, we do see pregnant women, and we see children, and we see, you know, people whose circles did choose and prioritize their survival. So to me, that gave me a message of, you know, we're good and we're bad. We're good and we're evil. We're light and we're dark. And it's just kind of a mixed fucking bag. And that is representative of us as a race, honestly, because there are really, really good people out there, and there are really fucking bad people out there. And you know, you just don't know. And we're all kind of like in this circle. The only difference is we don't have the control, whereas these people were given control. Yeah. And I think it's interesting that most of them reacted by seizing control, even if they didn't know what was going on.
You know, at the end, I kind of wanted the Boulet brothers to come out and drag.
I kind of wanted at the end. At the end, I held on way too long to like, well, maybe they're not dead. And then that moment where somebody got shocked and they like fell down, obviously fucking bleeding. Yeah. And they were like, "Is she dead?
Is she okay?
Is she okay? Is she okay?" Fucking bleeding out of her head. That would be me. I'd be like, they're just going to sleep. Everything's fine.
Right.
They're just going to sleep.
Right. So I said what I would have done. What would you have done?
If I had been there, yeah. I mean, it's really,
you can say one thing. You never really know, like, what in the moment, but like, just for shits and giggles.
I don't think I would vote. I think I would take the standpoint. To me, it came very quickly. Once I realized that there wasn't something to be figured out, that this was just going to be an inevitable thing that was just going to, like, I turned off the part of my brain that was trying to figure out the rhyme or reason to it. Once that happened for me, I kind of clicked into, like, if nobody voted, then it would be truly random. And if it's truly random, then it's nobody's fault. And you don't have to make the decision to kill somebody. I don't think that I could place a vote because in placing the vote, I become a murderer. Yeah. And because of, you know, whether that's true or not, I'm sure there are people that see it differently, but for me, placing a vote would be akin to participating in a murder, and that's not something that I can do. So I would have been that man who just stood there
And then just didn't
and never
vote.
voted. I never would have voted.
Yeah, I would have noped
And if I
myself
die
out.
randomly, then I die randomly. Because guess what? I'm going to fucking die randomly anyway.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part.
It's part of living.
I would have just noped out. Either that or you and I would have both been the ones to be like, what the fuck at first, and then like died in the first 2 seconds.
Probably.
Katie,
They'd be like, I don't like the way that bitch looks. Vote.
Katie would have been the one to just like, she'd be there and she'd be like, what the fuck? And then just like freak out.
You
and then
know me.
run.
I wouldn't stand there all that long. I'd sit down and go outside my circle, and then I get fucking zapped. That's
Same.
what would happen.
Same.
I
would have
need to
noped
lay
the
down.
fuck out because at the end of the day, like I said, I don't know what's gonna happen at the end of all this. I don't even know if is there a world left after this. Who the fuck knows? Who knows?
Is
what's
it one
gonna
that you
happen.
want to live in?
Is it one that you want to live in? Exactly. And now that these aliens have made their presence, like, who knows?
They
Are these
seem
now
like
your
assholes.
governing? Is this now your governing body? Are they here to like rule the fucking planet now? You don't know. I don't want to live in that fucking world. Bye. Peace out. Like,
You're
catch
like
y'all
me
on
in
the flip
zombie
side.
apocalypses. I'm like, nah, I'm out.
Catch y'all on the flip side. I would go out. I would like lift up my 2 fucking middle fingers. I would throw
That's
them up.
what we were missing. We were missing the renegade who was just like, fuck this. Because we had that sad teenager.
Yeah.
But I felt like he was probably just suicidal.
Pro-
And I felt really bad about it. I felt really bad about everybody enabling him when he was clearly, obviously just already suicidal.
And then that one guy who couldn't even remember his fucking name. They were telling him like, "You're a hero. You're a hero." I think his name was like, shit, I can't even remember his name. But like,
damn. What a
it was
bitch.
like Scott or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll name my child after you. And I'm like, you motherfucker. No, you won't. And then when he's dead, he's like, thanks, Steven, or some bullshit like that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, ridiculous. But I would have noped the fuck out. So I think we're at that point. Let's get into some reviews, shall we? Do you want to do the tomato and then I do the splat, or splat tomato?
I'll do a tomato.
All right, you do the tomato. I will do the splat. Do you want me to go first or you?
We always read the tomato first.
Let's
Why don't we? I want to reread the splat.
All right.
first.
Okay. So this is from David N. from Real Film Reviews, and he says, Circle essentially takes a premise that would have been ideal for a 22-minute episode of The Twilight Zone and expands it to a watchable yet erratic 87-minute running time.
You know, I kind of see that. I see it.
You could?
It did feel very much like a Twilight Zone episode, and it was a little, I think we could have condensed. I do think we could have condensed, but it was a cool,
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I would be in agreement.
The movie keeps suspense alive as we try to guess how this will all play out, building to a final tableau that silently says nearly as much about human nature as does all the talk leading up to it. And that was from John DeFore, Hollywood Reporter, which I also agree with.
Yeah. I would say so.
That was actually really well put together.
Yeah.
Damn, John DeFore.
Well, I mean, it's that Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I guess the time.
Well, you go
comes.
first, because I think I went first on the last one.
Okay.
So you go first. Chill or kill?
I'm gonna kill it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill it. I just for the sheer fact that I hated that fucking ending so much, I have to kill it. I think that I will say this, that yes, I would give it. I mean, yes, give it a watch, but
Be prepared to hate it.
be
apparently.
prepared to hate it. I mean, not necessarily hate it. You may like it. And it's not that I don't dislike this film, but I just have to kill it because I just simply because of that fucking ending. And that might not be a fair judgment call on that, but fucking kill it, man. Do watch it, but I'm killing it.
I'm gonna chill with it.
I figured you would.
Yeah, I'm gonna chill with it. We are in a disagreement.
Ooh, in a disagreement.
We
Are we in a
have
tie?
voted
Do we have to
oppositely.
vote?
Are we in a tie? No, I'm gonna chill with it.
I'm gonna not vote.
Me too. Let's go out together. I'm gonna chill with it because I think it's an interesting premise. I don't disagree that it does run a little long, but I will say that you are kind of on the edge of your seat because I mean, I meant what I said when I said it was like Degrassi Girl, it goes there. Like there's some shit said in this film that you are just like, what in the fuck? And you are kind of in an arguing, like you're kind of in a screaming match with your TV at points during this film.
Or throwing your headphones
across the room.
Across the room.
It will piss you off. It will make you angry. But I think it's an interesting idea to explore. Again, I think they told the story that they wanted to tell. I think they explored the things that they wanted to explore. And it was interesting to think about some of those situations and to think about, well, what would I do? How would I feel about this? Would I seize control? Would I not seize control? If I seized control, how would I make these decisions? And to me, that was worth exploring. I think it was very smart horror. I think it was very, they really resisted, as filmmakers, they really resisted the urge to overly control the story, which I thought was very clever and very hard to do sometimes.
I could almost see this, don't mean to interrupt, but to interrupt. I could almost see this as like a live action, like stage performance almost.
Yeah, it's very
with
similar
improv.
To the existentialist plays that I like. Like it's very on that like Samuel Beckett flow. Like it's very in that land of looking at stuff from such a crazy macro perspective.
Right. And like almost if you had given them no script and just had them like improv the whole thing.
Yeah.
I would, I would be interested to see how that would play out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The aliens were interested too. No, but I think, I will acknowledge that there were some missteps. I do think an open ending would have been better than the ending that we got. I mean, of course you're dissatisfied with the ending. You're supposed to be. You're supposed to be pissed the fuck off that this happened. But I do kind of respect the movie for going there, for showing him actually voting for the fetus. I disagree with you on that point because I actually respect that we see that happen, because I think it would have been really easy to nope out and just leave it open-ended, but in some way that provides a relief to your audience because they don't have to see that happen. And the simple fact is that I do think that we have something in our humanity, some of us in our DNA, that would lead to that very same conclusion. We see it all the time with some of the cases that we cover.
But do you think
where there's just no, that is not sacred to them in any way? What I hated, my biggest flaw that I found in the film was that epilogue where we see, it really was aliens abducting everybody in these spaceships and playing these games to learn about humanity. Like, I didn't need that. I thought it could have ended with him voting for the unborn child and then black screen. So that we don't know what happens to him. Did he live? Did he die? What happened? What happened as a result of that choice? Yeah. Did he get to live and he was released? Or did he just get zapped next? That's the opening that I would have liked, I think, at the end. Because I just thought the alien thing was very hokey. And it was very like Adobe Photoshop too. Like it didn't. I mean, this movie clearly didn't have the budget to support that, so I don't know why we went for it.
Why we went there towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway. But yeah, give it a watch. Don't watch it at a party because people are going to have different opinions.
Yeah.
And people are going to get fucking upset. But if you're kind of interested in, watch it with your partner and see what they get upset about.
Fuck yeah.
But be prepared to walk away from the relationship.
Yeah, it's just, oh God.
But yeah, that's how I felt.
Well,
be prepared to yell. So with this one, I'm really interested to hear what you guys think. So if you do watch The Circle or if you've seen it, I'm really interested to see what you think about it. Are you chilling with it? Are you killing with it? And what did you feel about the various turns that the movie makes, the various decisions that are made? So shout us out on Instagram at The Haunted Heart Podcast. Find us on Twitter at The Haunted Heart. You can find us on Facebook. If you search The Haunted Heart Podcast, you can find our Facebook page, which if you wouldn't mind giving us a little like, giving us a little love there. Maybe writing us a review while you're at it. Might be fun. And you will also find our closed Facebook group. And that's where we have a lot of discussions about episodes and various things related to the haunted heart culture. And feel free to join the group. Either myself, Kenny, or a member of our Murder Mod Squad will approve you. And from then on, like, it's private. Unless somebody is a member of the group, they can't see what you're posting about, what you're talking about. So feel free to get nasty. Feel free to tell us what you really feel about people here in the circle.
Yeah, here in the haunted heart circle. Yeah.
And if you're not big on that social media bullshit, feel free to shoot us an email at thehauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com and let us know what you thought of the film. I'll be interested to hear your reviews.
Yeah, let us know if you chill with it, you kill it, or you just simply don't vote.
Hell yeah.
So.
And while we're at it shouting out all of our bullshit, we might as well tell you about the Patreon. We're at patreon.com/thehauntedheart. If you are bored as fuck during quarantine and you need extra stuff to listen to, and you have listened to your Netflix and Kill, you have listened to the main episode on Wednesday, and you are going up the wall, consider joining our Patreon. You can get access to a bunch of exclusive bonus material, and hopefully we can keep you a little bit of company doing this here.
Love that.
Social distancing.
But audibly close. Socially distant, but
yes,
audibly in your ears.
Close in spirit.
Close in spirit.
We like spirits. We like ghosties.
Yeah.
It works.
Just sit your podcast app or whatever you're out your phone, whatever it is you listen to, just sit it beside you, just be like we're here, like we're there with you on the couch watching it. So
curled up
with you in your ears, telling you that until next time, you gotta
stay spooky.